Brothers, dear friends, today I want to talk to you about two apartments. Same city, same neighborhood, similar rent. The first apartment belongs to someone earning $85,000 a year. When you walk in, you see a 65-inch television mounted on the wall, a $3,000 leather sofa set, a kitchen full of appliances still wrapped in their original packaging, wardrobes stuffed to the brim with clothes that still have their tags on, a guest room that has turned into a storage space for items that haven't been touched in years. When this person looks at their bank account, they feel a knot in their stomach. If they miss two paychecks, they could go bankrupt. The second apartment belongs to someone earning $52,000 a year. The first thing you notice when you walk in is space, a normal couch, a reasonably sized television, a kitchen with appliances that meet their needs, a wardrobe with only the clothes that actually get worn. The guest room is also a room that serves its purpose. This person looks at their bank account with calm confidence. They have savings to cover 18 months of expenses and a habit of directing 20% of every paycheck toward investments. Same neighborhood. The person earning nearly half the income has almost 10 times the financial security. Friends, this is not a story about income. It is a story about the hidden relationship between stuff and money that most people never understand. The first person is not obviously bad with money. They don't gamble. They have no expensive addictions. They are simply gradually accumulating a lifestyle that requires every penny they earn just to sustain. The second person discovered something that changed their life, dear friends. Owning less does not mean living worse. It means living deliberately. And deliberate living creates a financial space that even most high earners never get to experience. Today I will share with you the minimalist money rules that belong to those who always have money regardless of their income. These rules are not built on deprivation. They are built on understanding that every object you own has ongoing costs you have never calculated. Let us begin with a concept that will reshape every purchase you make from this point forward. Everything you own costs you money twice. The first cost is obvious, the price on the receipt. But there is a second cost that most people completely ignore, and it is often greater than the first. The second cost includes storage, maintenance, mental energy, and opportunity cost. The treadmill you bought takes up space in your home. Space costs money, dear friends. In most urban areas, space costs roughly $30 to $50 per square meter per year. A treadmill takes up about 20 square meters, including clearance space, so you are paying $600 to $1,000 a year in implicit rent to store a piece of exercise equipment that you most likely hang clothes on most days. The second cost also includes maintenance and operating expenses. The boat sitting in your garage needs winterization, cleaning, registration, insurance, and occasional repairs. The general industry rule of thumb puts annual maintenance costs at around 10% of the boat's value. A $30,000 boat costs $3,000 a year just to own, even if you never put it in the water. I am not done yet, dear friends. The second cost also includes mental energy. Every item you own takes a small slice of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, insured, worried about, and eventually disposed of. Researchers show that visual clutter raises cortisol levels and reduces the brain's capacity to focus. Your stuff is genuinely stressing you out in ways you cannot consciously perceive. Not done yet. The second cost also includes opportunity cost. Every penny tied up in possessions is a penny that cannot go toward investment. That $13,000 home gym equipment could have been an index fund that grows to $40,000 or more over 15 years. You did not just buy a home gym. You bought a home gym instead of future financial freedom. When you add up these hidden costs, many possessions end up costing more than their purchase price. The purchase price is just the entry fee. The ongoing costs continue for as long as you own the item. Minimalists understand this intuitively, dear friends. They are not avoiding possessions because they hate nice things, but because they have calculated the true cost and decided most things are not worth it. This brings us to the first rule that minimalists follow religiously. First rule: calculate the cost per use before every purchase. Before buying anything, imagine how many times you will realistically use it. Divide the total cost by that number. This gives you the cost per use, which is the only honest measure of value. A $200 jacket worn twice costs $100 per wear. A $400 jacket worn 200 times costs $2 per wear. The expensive jacket is actually cheaper by any meaningful measure. This calculation immediately destroys the vast majority of impulse purchases. A $400 kitchen appliance you use twice a year costs $200 per use in the first year. That is a terribly expensive way to accomplish whatever task it performs. Meanwhile, a $30 tool you use once a week costs less than 60 cents per use in the first year. Cost per use also reveals which purchases are genuinely worthwhile. A $1,000 mattress used every night for 5 years costs about 22.5 cents per use. Extraordinary value for something that affects your health and energy every single day. A $1,500 espresso machine used daily for 5 years drops to under $1 per use and likely saves money compared to cafe expenses. Math wins over marketing, emotion, and social pressure. It reveals what is truly rational against what seems appealing in the heat of the moment. Second rule, apply the replacement test to everything you own. Look at each item in your home one by one and ask yourself this question. If this item disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Would you really buy a new fondue set? Would you replace that bread maker collecting dust in the cabinet? Would you buy back those clothes you have not worn in 16 months? For most items, the honest answer is no. You would not replace them. They exist in your life through inertia, not intention. Impulse purchases, gifts you felt obligated to keep, or remnants of hobbies and passing interests you have moved beyond. These items have negative value. They require space, mental energy, and maintenance without providing any corresponding benefit. Every hour spent organizing, cleaning around, or thinking about items you would not replace is an hour stolen from things that actually matter, dear friends. Minimalists ruthlessly weed out items that fail the replacement test. They sell what has value, donate what someone else could use, and throw away what serves nobody. This process feels uncomfortable at first, and then liberating once it is complete. The psychological weight of owning things you do not want or need is heavy. Removing that weight creates a mental space that is hard to describe but immediately noticeable. In the end, rooms feel larger, decisions feel simpler. Cleaning takes half the time. You know where everything is because everything in the room has a purpose. Third rule, avoid expenses that come from boredom. Dear beautiful friends, there is a pattern I constantly see in people who earn good incomes but have nothing to show for it. They replace perfectly functional items simply because they are bored with them or because newer versions have come out. Their television works perfectly, but the new model has slightly better color depth. Their phone operates flawlessly, but the new version has a slightly more advanced processor. Their car runs reliably, but the New Year's model has an updated interior design. Their furniture serves its purpose, but they have grown tired of it. These newer models feel like improvements, but they are actually wealth predators dressed up as progress. Minimalists adopt a strict policy: never replace something that works properly. A phone that makes calls, sends messages, and runs apps does not need to be replaced just because a newer phone has come out. A car that reliably transports you does not need to be replaced just because your neighbor bought a newer model. This policy keeps enormous amounts of money in your pocket over a lifetime. The average American replaces their phone every 2 to 3 years, most often while the previous phone still works perfectly. This consumption pattern leads to $30,000 to $50,000 in unnecessary spending over 30 years. When applied across all categories where the new model obsession culture operates, lifetime waste easily exceeds $200,000. Advocates of simplicity escape this trap by defining functional clearly. An item is not replaced until it genuinely can no longer serve its purpose. Being bored is not a malfunction. Desire for novelty is not a malfunction. The existence of newer alternatives is not a malfunction. Actual mechanical breakdown or a genuine inability to perform required tasks is a malfunction. Everything else is marketing trying to convince you to solve problems you do not have. Fourth rule, put the brakes on spending and make saving easy. Minimalists design an environment where the right choice is the easy choice. Putting the brakes on spending means removing saved credit card numbers from e-commerce sites, applying a 24-hour waiting period before any non-essential purchase, deleting shopping apps from your phone, unsubscribing from promotional emails, and avoiding stores when you have no actual need. Making saving easy means automatic transfers to investment accounts on payday, keeping only small amounts in easily accessible bank accounts, and treating savings as a fixed expense rather than an afterthought. Minimalists do not trust themselves to consistently make the right decisions. They design systems that make the right decisions automatic. Even just the 24-hour waiting rule alone eliminates roughly 70% of impulse purchases. The vast majority of desires for objects fade within a day if not acted upon immediately. Fifth rule, dear friends, count your possessions regularly. This sounds obsessive until you actually do it. Counting creates awareness. Awareness prevents accumulation. Pick a category. Count how many items you own in that category. Write it down. The numbers often shock people who have never objectively examined their consumption patterns. How many pairs of shoes do you own? Most people guess low and discover they have 3 to 4 times what they estimated. How many kitchen gadgets? How many shirts? How many items sitting in your drawers that you never use? How many books you will never read again? The count itself changes behavior. Once you know you own 47 shirts, buying another one feels different. You do not have to bring the collection to 48. The absurdity becomes visible. Minimalists track key categories over time. They set maximum thresholds, perhaps 15 items of clothing in total, perhaps 10 books at any given time, perhaps a one-in, one-out policy where any new purchase requires removing something existing. These constraints prevent lifestyle creep. Without intentional limits, possessions expand to fill available space, but with limits, each addition requires a conscious decision about what it is replacing. This friction alone dramatically reduces acquisition. Sixth rule, rent or borrow before you buy. Dear friends, the vast majority of items people purchase get used intensively for a short period and then forgotten. The excitement of newness fades. The initial enthusiasm diminishes. The item joins the collection of things owned but rarely touched. Minimalists test this pattern by renting or borrowing before committing to ownership. Want to get into camping? Rent equipment for the first few trips? Want to try woodworking? Borrow tools from a friend or use a makerspace? This approach accomplishes two things. First, it reveals whether the enthusiasm is genuine or temporary. Many interests fade after the initial exploration. It is much better to discover this while renting than after purchasing equipment that collects dust indefinitely. Second, it clarifies exactly what you need. First-time campers often buy too much or the wrong things. Renting lets you learn before committing. When you eventually purchase, you buy precisely what you need rather than guessing. The buy-first mentality costs people enormously over their lifetimes. Closets and garages full of the dusty remnants of abandoned hobbies are a familiar sight for all of us. Ski equipment left over from the phase when they thought they would ski regularly. Car repair equipment from when they dreamed of becoming a serious mechanic. Old gaming consoles that no longer get used. Minimalists avoid becoming museums of past enthusiasm. They test interest before investing and keep the flexibility to explore by renting first. Seventh rule, understand the lifestyle multiplier effect. Brothers, every possession you own connects to other possessions. A boat requires a trailer, a vehicle with a tow hitch, storage fees, maintenance supplies, safety equipment, and appropriate clothing. A purchase that seems singular actually triggers a cascade of ecosystem purchases. This is the lifestyle multiplier. Major purchases turn into ecosystems of related expenses, and the true cost is never just the item itself. Watch how this plays out with common purchases. A home cinema sound system requires curtains, projector lighting solutions, soundproofing, and often renovations to make the space suitable. A pool requires chemical supplies, cleaning equipment, covers, furniture, maintenance tools, and often landscaping to complete the installation. A motorcycle requires gear, storage, maintenance equipment, and often a truck or trailer to transport it to riding locations. Minimalists calculate the full ecosystem cost before any major purchase. They know that a $6,000 purchase might actually reach $9,000 or $13,000 once all the multiplier expenses are included. This full accounting often transforms what seemed like a reasonable purchase into something clearly excessive. The multiplier effect also works in reverse. Eliminating one major possession often eliminates an entire category of related expenses. Selling the boat means no more storage fees, insurance, registration, maintenance, or towing costs. The savings extend far beyond the item's value. Eighth rule: define enough before you start earning. Brothers, there is something that constantly traps high earners. They never define what enough looks like, so they keep purchasing more without ever arriving at satisfaction. Their income increases, so their expenses increase too. The new lifestyle becomes normal, so they need another income increase to feel progress. This cycle continues indefinitely. People earning $400,000 feel just as financially stressed as people earning $90,000 because their expectations and expenses expanded alongside their income. Minimalists break this cycle by defining enough before they start earning. They decide in advance which home is sufficient, which furniture meets their needs, and what level of material comfort is necessary. Then they earn toward that target rather than constantly moving the goalpost. This might mean deciding that a $450,000 home is enough even when you could eventually afford $800,000. It might mean deciding that a $40,000 car is enough while colleagues drive $80,000 vehicles. It might mean deciding that your current wardrobe is enough even as your income could support constant upgrades. Defining enough creates a compass. Without it, you are lost in an endless drift where lifestyle expansion always outpaces income growth. With it, you reach a point where additional income flows to savings and investment rather than consumption. The person who defines enough as $50,000 of annual spending and then starts earning $160,000 builds wealth at an extraordinary rate. The $110,000 gap between income and enough goes directly to financial freedom. Meanwhile, someone earning the same $160,000 but swept up in a consumption frenzy may save almost nothing. Ninth rule: measure wealth by optionality, not accumulation. The conventional view measures wealth by what you have, meaning houses, cars, possessions, visible markers of success. Minimalists measure wealth differently, dear friends. Can you leave a job that is destroying your mental health? Can you take 6 months off to handle a family emergency? Can you move to a new city for a relationship? Can you start a business without guaranteed income? Can you retire before 65? Can you say no to opportunities that pay well but compromise your values? These choices represent true wealth. They are only available to people who have built a significant gap between their income and their expenses. Someone earning $185,000 but spending $180,000 has almost no optionality. They are chained to earning income. Someone earning $90,000 but spending $50,000 has extraordinary optionality. They can absorb disruptions, take risks, and make choices based on preference rather than financial necessity. Minimalists understand that optionality requires financial resources more than physical possessions. Money tied up in a boat you no longer need cannot buy your freedom when you need it. Home equity locked inside excess house cannot fund a career transition or potential medical expenses. This perspective shapes spending decisions. Every purchase is not just exchanging money for an object, it is trading optionality for a possession. Is the item you want to buy worth reducing your capacity to make free choices about your life? Sometimes yes, most often no. 10th rule: apply cyclical order rather than annual mass purges. Most people who try minimalism do a big purge, feel great for a few weeks, and then slowly accumulate back to their starting point. The purge feels good, the gradual reaccumulation goes unnoticed. Within 2 years, they are right back where they started. Minimalists avoid this pattern through periodic order. Instead of annual mass purges, they do small, regular reviews, weekly glances at incoming items, monthly evaluation of one category, quarterly assessment of overall accumulation trends. This periodic approach catches accumulation early before it rebuilds to overwhelming levels. Removing 3 items per week is manageable and sustainable. Removing 200 items once a year feels overwhelming and often gets postponed indefinitely. The periodic approach also maintains awareness. When you evaluate your possessions regularly, you notice the spread. It reveals which categories tend to grow, you identify which emotional states trigger acquisition, and you recognize which marketing tactics work particularly well on you. This awareness enables prevention rather than just treatment. Now, brothers, dear beautiful friends, let me share a practical implementation of these rules that you can start today. This week, walk through your home with the replacement test in mind. Identify 7 items you would not spend money to replace if they disappeared. Sell, donate, or discard those items. Notice how it feels to remove things you do not actually want. This month, apply the 24-hour rule to all non-essential purchases. Track how much of the urge to buy survives the waiting period and how much fades away. The data will reveal how much of your spending is impulsive versus intentional. This quarter, count your possessions in 3 categories that tend to accumulate for most people. Bags, kitchen items, and media and entertainment are good starting points. Set a maximum limit for each category based on what you actually use. Throughout this year, define what enough looks like across your major spending categories. Which vehicle is sufficient? Which home appliances are truly necessary? Which wardrobe meets your genuine needs? Write these definitions down and refer to them when the urge to exceed your own standards arises. The money saved through this new mindset grows into significant savings over time. Someone who consistently applies these rules for 5 years spends far less but saves far more. The gap between their lifestyle and their income creates wealth that cannot be built any other way. Friends, let me now tell you what nobody tells you about minimalism and money. This relationship is bidirectional. Owning less creates more money, but having more money also makes owning less feel natural. When your savings account is full and your investments are growing, the urge to accumulate diminishes. The psychological need that drives most consumption, namely the need for security and status, gets satisfied by financial strength rather than physical possessions. Thanks to the confidence your bank account gives you, you no longer feel the need for possessions to feel successful. People swept up in consumption frenzies often cannot explain why they buy so much. The truth is usually this: spending money and time temporarily fills an emotional void created by financial insecurity. Address the insecurity with genuine economic strength and witness the spending urge most often dissolving on its own. This mindset triggers an empowering cycle. Spending less leads to more savings. More savings creates security. The feeling of security reduces the emotional drive to spend. Reduced spending accelerates savings further. Each turn of the cycle reinforces the next. The opposite cycle is equally powerful but destructive. Overspending creates insecurity. Insecurity triggers more spending as temporary emotional relief. More spending reinforces insecurity. The cycle continues until some external shock forces a breaking point. The choice between these 2 routines determines financial trajectory far more than income ever could. High earners trapped in the destructive process build nothing. Modest earners riding the virtuous cycle build everything. The minimalist rules I have outlined are not about suffering or deprivation, dear friends. They are about accepting that the vast majority of consumption habits do not actually improve life satisfaction. Research consistently shows that beyond a baseline of security and comfort, additional purchases contribute very little to well-being. Yet most people spend as if happiness multiplies in a linear scale with spending. Minimalists spend enough to be comfortable and direct their savings toward freedom rather than unnecessary spending. In the end, they get by with fewer possessions and more life. The apartment I described at the beginning, belonging to someone earning $52,000 with 18 months of savings, belongs to someone applying these rules consistently. They did not get there through exceptional income. They got there through exceptional clarity. The other apartment, belonging to someone earning $85,000 who is 2 paychecks away from crisis, belongs to someone who never questioned the assumption that more stuff equals a better life. I have talked about what both lifestyles can gain you and cost you. Would you rather own your possessions, or are you comfortable letting your possessions own you? The choice is yours. The math strongly favors the first option, and so does peace of mind. Take good care of yourselves, dear friends.